And so I think someone from the Stanford Arts Institute is going to get up, and then I'll take questions from the audience.
Just wanted to let you all know that this is the first in our research residencies here at Stanford. We're excited to start this, and Paulina, thank you so much for being our guinea pig. But we're going to be inviting artists here throughout the year to come and do some research, to meet with professors, to dive into the libraries that are here and show works in progress. So I hope you'll come back to the other ones throughout the year. And I also want to point out that once we're done with the questions, there are some snacks and food there. So, you know, stay, talk, mingle, and a shout out to Emily Seidel for putting this night together.
And if people ask questions, I would sort of ask you to line up in front of the center mic, but we do have handheld mics if you don't want to get up. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm not sure if I have a question as much as an observation. You and I have been talking about this project for some time,
right.
Somewhat not so much face-to-face, and my name's James Leventhal, right. And it's terrific to see this. I guess, this is perhaps a long question away, or I'll try and keep the observation short.
Okay.
It's amazing to see this presentation now, in a way also to see how much of this is about, especially in this entry, how much the sort of extreme, awesome, almost unbearable flatness of this great plateau of the year 1968. And then this truly sort of remarkable spike that's your own personal narrative that tells this kind of like every person, or perhaps sort of like every ghost kind of story, that there's this sort of, it speaks to the American tragedy in a way, mm-hmm. of what this country is post-1968. And I guess all of that is just to say I applaud you for this, and that it's remarkably cathartic. I realize the intention is to do something much more experiential and to sort of create more of a room and a space and what comes next. But it's amazing to be in this space and sort of share this cathartic moment with you.
I have to say that James is one of the most amazing coaches throughout this project. And I would also call him hysterically and say, James, I can't do this, what am I going to do? And he actually led me to Stanford originally. So I sent him an email and said, James, this is partly your doing. I think it's worth talking about why I have the slideshow. 1968 is so vivid for me, and I felt in some way connected to what was going on, but many people who weren't alive then don't know what it was like. And I felt I had to evoke the way my experience was connected to that year. And that's why I created what I call the AV wallpaper, to sort of set the tone for the incident, because you can't really get, I feel like my particular experience was really tied to the events of that year in a way that I hope I tried to evoke here. And it was kind of deeply political, and I'm not going to get political, but you can imagine I have strong feelings about gun control. I'll just leave it at that. Yes. Will that, Emily, somebody get you a mic? Or step up. Okay.
Thank you so much. My name is Iris. I was just wondering, you spoke a lot about you questioning whether you deserve to be here, and I was wondering what your darkest moments were in your life. I know you kind of touched base on some of them, but in the ER you decided kind of to stay awake, and I was wondering if there are other moments where you may have faltered throughout your life.
More than I could possibly have time for here. Sure. But what I think, to me, the interesting piece is that because I would say I have this neurological vulnerability, let's call it that way, when I'm dealing with something extremely difficult, I immediately go to that corner of I don't know why I'm still here. And many people, when they have challenge in their life, or losses, or misery, or pain, or whatever, they don't go to that corner. I always go to that corner. And it seems so obvious that I should go to that corner. And I realize for other people, they never go to that corner. So it's really less about the catalog of what I've endured in my life, and it's more like, I have this tropism in this certain direction, which until I went to that TBI support group, I just thought it was one more way I was flawed. Other people don't do this, so it's one more thing that's wrong with me, which it turns out it isn't. And I found it really interesting, because the other people in this TBI support group we didn't all have the same injuries. I don't think you could capture on an MRI what that part of the brain is that makes you know that you're here, you belong here. Your dog or your cat knows that he or she belongs scampering around the house. I'm not so clear about it. I mean, it's not that I can't have experiences of joy and connection and all kinds of wonderful things. It's not being anhedonic. It's not being a depressive. That's something different. This is like, am I really here? Should I be here? It's a place I go to kind of reflexively, and I wasn't like that before. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Find a microphone. Let Emily.
I guess I can use this?
Yes.
You can hear me? Okay. I'm wondering what the difference is, if you can explain it, between traumatic brain injury that occurs from something like a gunshot or a head injury and a near-death experience that doesn't involve a trauma like that, but a different thing. I had immense fevers as a kid and was several times expected not to survive a night because of the extreme fevers that I had. And I don't have exactly the experiences or even similar to what you have, and I'm just trying to figure out what is the difference between that kind of a near-death experience. I do sometimes occasionally wonder what my purpose is and what I'm supposed to accomplish, why I didn't die of those fevers at the time. And I'm just curious about the difference.
Again, I'm not a neurologist or anything, but what I've been able to tell is that when I talk to people who've had near-death experiences like you, they're kind of kindred spirits. It's sort of like I speak French, they speak Italian, someone else speaks Spanish. You know, we've all had kind of similar things happen, and certainly people with near-death experiences you often hear, and after I survived blah, 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 either I had a new purpose in life, or forever after I questioned the meaning and value of life. It's very hard to evoke something that's with you all the time, you know? I mean, again, it's not that I haven't experienced all kinds of wonderful things, but it's always there, lurking in background. And I don't ever question, there must be a purpose why I survived being shot in the head. That's not even it. It's just sort of, it's like if you have a bad knee, your bad knee is always going to give out on you. But it's this existential kind of bad knee. I don't know if that kind of, you know, because I've met people who've had out-of-body experiences. Maybe they were in the hospital or something like that. We kind of can signal at each other, but it's something different. And just like when I've talked to people, I guess it's called ABI, acquired brain injury, which is strokes, some of them may have something similar, but I'm not a neurologist. And I've mostly heard about this from people with TBI. And again, I'm very new to TBI world because since I was always told I was fine, I never had a treating neurologist. I'm not expert in that world. And it would be very different to have what happened to me happen now than then. There'd be a million people jumping in on you and say, how are you feeling? What's different? Let's evaluate. And it was funny, when I was part of that beta test for that computer game, the postdoc who was assessing me, first she did a 45-minute interview on the phone with me, and I fit perfectly with their profile as someone with mild impairments. I never get that. I always am told, oh, you're a real yapper, you're fine. And it was like such a relief. And the questions she asked me were the right questions. And there was a diagnostic test they had you take before you played this game. And boy, was it good at latching right onto what I'm really bad at. I mean, it was like they knew. And I really enjoyed this computer game. It was really fun, and I could feel my certain things getting better. But I feel when I went back and took the test after I'd done these like couple of months of sessions of this kind of fun thing, I didn't get that much better. I mean, there is a permanence to this that I know neuroplasticity is very much in the news, and I'm all in favor of it, and I believe in rehab, and it's all great, but we have to accept that some things are permanent and for good and done. And how do we accept that? I mean, I think our sense of the tragedy of life and the limitations, that's not in this malignant, happy, slappy culture of optimism that, particularly around here, is the dominant culture. And I have a tragic view of life. Norse mythology is my favorite. I know, I'm going off on a tangent there, but that's my answer to your question. Okay.
Thank you for your talk. Your invocation of ghost reminds me of the multiple personality disorder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did some research on that. as an undergrad for my philosophy class, and I was particularly drawn to the broader political situation that you alluded to in your talk. So, and I was very interested in the story of you and your friend Lin as you grew up. You know, it seems like when the shooting took place, you were just teenager girls coming of age, and then you sort of matured and became women. And you also mentioned that people sort of downplayed your symptoms or the importance of that trauma and attributed that to your femininity or feminine psychology. So if you could talk more about how your thinking changed or how that sort of social opinion influenced your own experience and how that would differ from, say, a man who...
I sort of, how to put this? I kind of compare this to like having been a dyslexic and growing up in the 30s. If you were dyslexic in the 30s, people would think you're lazy or stupid or whatever. There just wasn't a way to understand it. And because it was so incomprehensible, because I'm very yappy, that I was such a screw up in my life, I think particularly with women, they tend to psychologize why you're having problems. You know, you're self-destructive, you have a fear of success, you have... you're self-thwarting and it's because you're a masochist. I mean, I think with women, things get psychologized a lot more. And you have to remember, I didn't quite understand what was going on. And it wasn't until my 30s I began to understand, oh, there were some real neurological impacts. Also, me being me, I never wanted to lead as being a victim. I don't talk to this about this experience with most people. I don't lead with it. People can know me for years and not know anything about it. Like anyone, you kind of want to be regarded as like, you want to be part of the tribe. You don't want to be marked as a wacko. And I have enough personality characteristics to mark me as a wacko as it is. And so it was really easy to ascribe all that other stuff. These days, there's much more an emphasis on the biology of thinking and feeling. In those days, we were all kind of the bad inheritors of bad Freud. And everything was psychological. You're too young to remember this, but when I was growing up, we were taught that autism was because there was a refrigerator mother. Blame it on the mom. So I internalized all that, must be something wrong with me, and da-da-da-da-da. So I don't know if that's kind of an answer to your question, but I think with women, things tend to get psychologized much more, and I don't think that's fair or right. Not that I'm anti-psychology, but that's not all there is. So let's go eat. And thank you all for coming.